And then we had a bank, I think, of 4 different puppeteers who were using little joysticks, and one person was only concerned about the eyes when they blink, when they look right and left. Somebody would be doing the mouth and so forth. And it was a nightmare of coordination. I mean, they really had to know and rehearse and so forth what they were doing.
Sometimes we'd be shooting and the duck would just, the face would just start going, ee, 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 and they'd go, a plane is going over, or someone's using their garage door opener. And the worst thing was that they would do the duck's close-up before mine. I was like, dude, I'm the leading lady. Can't you do me before the duck? Nope.
Ed Gale, even though he was wearing this costume, really became Howard the Duck, and he took it very seriously. He worked as an actor. He wasn't just a guy in a little suit.
My only vision was through the mouth, and obviously only when it was open. And then we also discovered I had a natural talent of memory and knowing where I'm at when I can't see. I just had the sense of knowing where I was. And then a lot of times we would rehearse, I would rehearse backwards. So if I had to walk up to you 10 steps, I would walk backwards 10 steps. And then on action, walk forward 10 steps.
Make yourself at home?
Make myself at home? I wish.
And of course, it was equally odd because there was really no voice. I mean, the voice of Howard was added later.
What?
I don't need any more of your sympathy, your charity.
When it came to dialogue and reading the script, I think we tried for a minute for me to actually speak and do the dialogue. It was hard to hear me. It was muffled, and the director was like, okay, don't talk. And eventually what they did was the lead puppeteer was Tim Rose, and they gave him a microphone and a miniature speaker off the side, and he would do the dialogue.
You know, and those suits are hot and claustrophobic, and you have all those gears running.
You know, you'd see little Howard sitting there between takes, and they'd have a hair dryer stuffed in his bill to keep him cool.
It was quite a trial. Ed was a real trooper. He really was great. It was very difficult to get in and out of the suit, so he had to be in it for a long time, and you know, you couldn't go to the bathroom, so you had to hold it.
Going to the bathroom was interesting. It was really funny, though. It's a lot like football players. They sweat so much, you never have to go, because if you're drinking and sweating, it never hits your kidneys, you know? So I never really had to go. And I didn't think about that for like weeks into the show, and I'm like, yeah, I don't go to the bathroom, do I? Drinking lots of Gatorade.
You think I might find happiness in the animal kingdom, Ducky?
Like they say, Dal, love's strange. We could always give it a try.
When it came to the love scene, we decided to try to make it seem like, oh my God, this is going to become a sex scene. And he starts getting very nervous, like, wait a minute, is this really going to happen? And that's when he's not able to control himself and his head feathers go up, which took months of technological stuff to get his head feathers to go erect. But it was fun. I mean, not every day on this movie was fun. That day was actually one of the more pleasant ones.
I've got a headache. And I got the aspirin.
We pushed all those sort of sexual connotations, but people were really upset with it at the time because they kept saying, oh, who is this film for, children or adults? And I would say, well, it's for anyone who finds it amusing.
This is not what you think. We're just very good friends.
Well, I have a very off-center kind of sense of humor, so I appreciated the whole idea of having a love scene with a duck. I thought it was hilarious.
Must be mating season.
We deliberately said, okay, this is based on a color comic book, and the two people who really contributed to the 80s comic book look were Peter Jameson, who was the production designer, who did fantastic sets using primary colors, and Richard Klein, who was the director of photography and who had done a lot of movies and was really a rock in the midst of the worst situations. You know, I could always depend on Richard because he had been through worse situations before. Joe Tompkins, who did the costumes, did a great job. I mean, Cherry Bomb, the girls' group, is very 80s, and we had punks and the whole scene in the nightclub in the beginning.
Go on in, Frankenweenie! We finally found you a date!
We had beautiful costumes. I still have them. And we had a beautiful costume house because they had to make all the duck costumes. So they spent the big bucks.
It's my fault I got a shoplift at the Little Tyke section of Goodwill.
I'm still upset about my hair in Howard the Duck because I should have worn a wig. It took about, I don't know, 2 hours a day. And she'd crimp it, and it would smoke. And I don't even know how I have a hair on my head left.
Creating Duck World was interesting, and we had to imagine, well, aside from it being populated with ducks instead of people, what would it be like and what would the scale be? So Peter Jameson, had a whole thing figured out, well, if a table's this size. And so throughout the film, we would shoot different segments of Duck World.
Wow!
Which also meant that we had a team of little people. Fortunately, George has made a lot of movies with little people, so they had a whole list of available little people, and they were always great and always around, and that was fun.
Casey, did you hear something?
Being on the set, we could see more because the camera would maybe just do a quick pan. But I was able to sit there and read all of, oh my God, the books' titles. I mean, they were so detailed, even the money. The crew members on that film, they're just so detail-oriented, knowing the camera's only going to see a quick second of it. And they pulled puns on everything. What was the Playboy was Play Duck? Yeah. And that part was funny. I loved that whole setup. It was fun.
He's sitting in his chair in his living room on his planet.
What is going on here?
And suddenly the chair takes off and he's blasted through walls and out into space. A lot of that was actually done practically. And the chair was on a wire and he would be pulled across a miniature room and the wires were there. So they would take those shots and put them in the computer and take the wires out. Well, in those days, it was a big deal. Nowadays, they do it on television every day. I mean, it's not a big deal. So it really was right on the cusp of technology changing.
The scene in the restaurant when the ketchup blows up and all that, they built that set, and we were there for a month. It's really hard to be funny when you've done every angle, including the ketchup's POV. When they got to the ketchup's POV, I was like, no! It's hard to tell a joke that many times.
Yes, my boyfriend! That's disgusting.
We recreated a diner on a soundstage, and the sushi bar scene is also interesting because it is sort of a history of special effects. You've got practical special effects, which are bar stools flying into the air and squibs and air cannons to blow windows, and that's all done in the old-fashioned, the special effects guys who are great. And then on top of that, you have ILM then taking that and putting in visual effects along with the practical special effects.
Underneath all the plates and everything, there were like little air jets, and they had to go off in sequence when things would blow up.
They get the point, Denning.
The problem is when you use special effects and they do not work, you're losing so much valuable time and have hundreds of people standing around. Very, very difficult to plan for it because it's going to do something that you really can't control.
Prepare for takeoff!
The other sequence, which actually almost became a second movie being shot simultaneously, was the ultralight sequence, in which Phil, the Tim Robbins character, and Howard end up in an ultralight flying through Petaluma, which is actually where they shot American Graffiti. So it was sort of a return to the main street of Petaluma. But that was a massive sequence because it was a real ultralight.
Howard, pull up! Pull up!
The ultralight sequence was just really designed by Joe Johnston, and not only being dangerous in that they actually flew it, but just the whole coordination and the crew and everything that went into it was just monumental.
Ah! Howard, pull it up!
Eventually, we had 3 units going. Everybody's familiar with first and second unit. We had a 3rd unit going because, again, time was running. Dang.
final climactic sequence was shot in a huge naval installation in San Francisco. So we took the whole building over and built the astronomy lab, and happened to be shooting when it was absolutely freezing, so it was like being in a cold ice chest, the whole sequence.
All right. Turn me into a dark overlord. I'll still spit in your wormy face.
Oh, I was so sick. And I was laying on the table tied down, and my dress was like all ripped off, and they would like throw a blanket on me between takes. I was coughing. I was like, it took a whole month.
In the last sequence, when the Dark Overlord finally becomes a creature, a huge monster, we had Phil Tippett, who was the master in this area, build it. Today, I don't think they would do that. He built it the same way Ray Harryhausen and so forth had worked on so many movies. They would start with clay, and the little clay model would get more and more sophisticated.
You just hope that when you're going, that they really put in a big monster with his tongue going like this,
Phil Tippett really took over the design of that monster, and he made the sequence so much better.
We had the big concert scene at the end where Howard finally goes on stage, and it was shot in a big auditorium in San Francisco. And Tom Dolby and George Clinton had come up with this really great, funky Howard the Duck sort of theme song that we got to do at the end. So it was like, doing our own little rock concert with Howard.
We call him Howard the Duck. No way to conceal it.
What I also remember is I never got a day off, because my days off would be spent working on the choreography, learning the guitar, and recording. We had to record all that music before we shot it.
I enjoyed it. I got to do a little dancing, got to move, and it was different. I was younger, I was more agile. Of course, Thomas Dolby, he had a special guitar made for me, and I still have it today. So I got to rehearse with that one a lot. Again, now they bring in a dance choreographer to teach me how to dance and teach you how to do a concert, throwing the pick out, and doing the whole bit.
Not bad for a duck from outer space.
You were great, Ducky.
The last shot in the movie, the idea there is that their relationship builds and continues.
I had a crazy couple of years, because in Back to the Future I was supposed to be in love with my son, and then in Howard the Duck I was supposed to be in love with the duck. I was very confused.
The idea was that there was going to be a future for them, and for perhaps the movie. Maybe there'd be a sequel. Of course, it never happened. But we like to think that Howard and Beverly stayed together.